And then, Mike, there was part B of it regarding compensation for teams that entertain and eventually get more minority candidates to that step before, if not the step of hiring in the interview process. Can you synthesize what the outcome of that conversation was for everyone?
Yes, it's a reversal from something that Coach and I talked at length about earlier this year when there was consideration given to awarding compensatory draft picks to teams who hire minority coaches or minority general managers. Now the reward goes not to the team that makes the hire, but to the team that develops the candidate to the point where he becomes attractive as a coach or a GM with another team. That team, if it employed the minority candidate for 2 or more years, gets 2 third-round draft picks if and when that person becomes a head coach or a GM with another team. So the incentive is now to create a robust pipeline of diverse and inclusive candidates. And, Coach, I've been saying all week, they need to get away from employment at these lower jobs based on who you know and who you're related to, and this is an incentive to do that.
It really is, Mike, and I'm in favor of this. I did some work with the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and we were kind of working on tweaking this, and it really does make sense. We know when you're hiring people in those entry-level positions, a lot of times it goes to your son or your nephew. If I was there, I'd hire my son, obviously. But when you think about that now, hey, I'm going to hire a quality control person on offense. If I can hire a young, bright minority candidate, and 5 years from now, we're going to get a third-round draft choice, that might tip the scale a little bit and cause me to think, well, maybe I don't need to hire the first person I see on this resume sheet, or I don't need to hire one of my relatives. Let me do something for the team. And then that's going to help that pipeline that we all seem to be talking about.
Coach, I don't know, just sitting here listening and just kind of just thinking about everything, to me, I'm actually insulted. Because to me, it's just insulting to have to offer incentives for an organization to hire somebody of color or a black person. And to me, if we're good enough to play on the field, we're good enough to do different things, we're good enough to be able to coach and get into the front office and go in there and change some of the policies and things like that. And that's why it's so important, and that's why we root for Raheem Morris and Brian Flores and Mike Tomlin. That's why we root for these coaches to have success, because if they don't have success and they fail, that's just another excuse for the owners to come in and say, well, we hired, we gave him a chance, but of course the black coach couldn't make it. So that's why every single week we root for these guys.
No question. And that's, Rodney, exactly why I was kind of against the first iteration we had of this, of rewarding that team that hired the coach, because I think you're absolutely right. Nobody wants to come on that level. But as you look back on it, I'll take you back to my career as a coach. I come in 1996. I'm a young head coach ready to go, trying to hire a staff. And I know the problems that young African Americans had getting started. So I hired Lovie Smith out of college, and I hired Herm Edwards when he wasn't in the NFL. And I knew that those guys could do it and they needed to be in there. But somebody who doesn't have that mindset, who doesn't think, well, gosh, these entry-level positions make a difference, now giving them some incentive and saying, you know what, if you'll at least go out there and investigate and look for the best people, somewhere down the road your organization may benefit. So take your time, still hire the best people, but you know what? There's some incentive to look around. And I think this is going to help. I really do.
And Coach, and that's one of the reasons why I respect you so much, and so many people across the league respect you so much, because you didn't get to a point of success and you said, forget about everyone else. You said, you know what? I'm going to bring people along. I'm going to use my experience and all the information that I know. I'm going to teach other people and empower them. And that's why I have so much respect for you. And that's why so many other people, whether it's players, coaches, scouts, they always talk to me. Hey, tell Coach Dungy I said hello, because they know what type of person you are. And that's what it's about, ultimately, Mike Tirico.
Ditto. Times 1,000. Couldn't agree more with what you said. Rodney, can I just double back to what you were talking about? Quota systems obviously get people very uptight and very concerned on both sides of it. Nobody wants token assignments or token jobs given. But this system hasn't worked. So they got to find something that's going to work a bit better. And I do love the fact, and Tony, for all the work that your group did, that you helped the Fritz Pollard Association group do, at least it gives some relatively intelligent direction to We are incentivizing you to do this and to develop. I agree, you should be doing it automatically. But if the pipeline doesn't get full with more candidates, people aren't going to get to the top with a real chance to succeed. So I hear what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. But I also, at the same time, think we can applaud what's being done here, because I do think it's going to give more minorities a real chance. And more importantly, head coaches, owners, the establishment in the league, which has been largely white men, the opportunity to develop these guys and the incentive to develop it. And guess what? They're going to realize we can develop anybody who looks in any color or shape or anything else. Go ahead, Tony. You're going to say something. I'm sorry.
And Mike, I'm going to interrupt Rodney here for a little bit and just say hopefully this will get across to people in the NFL. This is good for all of us. This is going to make for a better league. When I go back to 1996, I can tell you, I got criticized. I got killed in the Tampa media. Lovie Smith, who is that? Where is he from? Herm Edwards, he's not coaching in the league. We need some experience. I hired Mike Tomlin when he was 29 years old. Where did he come from? University of Cincinnati? Nobody was on these guys when you could see they were talented. And when they got in and got a chance to show what they could do, it was just a couple of years when everybody was beating down the door trying to get these guys. But getting that opportunity and getting people to say, you know what, let's think outside the box. Let's get away from people we think are candidates and give some people an opportunity who are really bright, and let's see what they can do. And hopefully this will help that.
Mike, I appreciate you saying what you're saying, and Coach explaining it even more. It gives me a better understanding. Yeah, I have some underlying feelings because I just don't think that we're less than. I get tired of people thinking that because we're black men that we're less than. We work hard, we have knowledge, we're smart, we study, we prepare, we do all those different things. But I appreciate that perspective because from both of you guys, because it gave me something different to look at. Thank you.
And Rodney, I think the most important thing, and let's not get too far away from where we were as a country in May. The number one thing we need to do is listen. Right? We need to listen and understand more. And by you expressing how you feel about it helps me understand it better and see it better. So the most important thing we can all do, we don't have to all agree. But at least if we listen and understand, I know how you feel about it. I understand how people feel marginalized, that you're a female or an African-American or of this race or this gender or anything else. So we have to have one of you in the group. No, you want to be there because of your merits and your talents and your abilities. So it's a difficult line, but it's opportunity. And if the door of opportunity opens, I have a friend who is a second generation in sports media who said, my last name opened the door for me. There's no doubt about it. But it's my responsibility to keep the door open, to walk through that door, and to succeed and open the door for people behind me. And I love that because that's what this opportunity is for a lot of folks. Mike Florio, I'll give you the last word on this before we move back to the field.
Well, I think back to 2002 when the NFL passed the Rooney Rule under threat of litigation from the late Johnny Cochran and Cyrus Mehri. And that worked, at least that effort worked to get the Rooney Rule passed because it was so bad. And it was so much worse then than now. But 18 years later, it really isn't in the grand scheme of things all that much better. So the league doing what it has to do to try to improve the pipeline. And I really do think that's the key, guys. It's the pipeline. The more candidates in the pipeline, the more that naturally the best will rise to the top, regardless of skin color, regardless of background, regardless of anything. That pipeline just needs to be more robust.
And we've seen that coaching fellowships, coaches who come to training camps to learn to be around the NFL, then go back to their college jobs. Hopefully all of this continues to get it forward to a better and a more equitable place.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.